Hey guys, here we are again, Razor Rocks. Coming back to you with the 570 Razor. We're going to talk again about drive shaft issues. The last time I videoed, we were actually talking about pinning the front yoke to the pinion because of some excessive play that I had. And I've got the drive shaft actually shoved back in there now, and just going to go over a couple things here with you if you're kind of new to doing this on your own and trying to save yourself a buck or two. So stay tuned. Okay, the easiest way for me to do it, a lot of guys will take the back clutch cover off and pull the primary clutch to pull the drive shaft out, but to me I think that's a lot harder. Plus this gives you a chance to lube your wheel bearing if you have a wheel bearing greaser, and you can see there where I just greased mine. Guys, if you don't have a wheel bearing greaser, man, that is an absolute must for the longevity of these bearings. For sure, pick you up a bearing greaser, and before the end of the video I'll show you which ones to buy, because not specific brand, but the front and the rear is a different size. One is a 40 millimeter and one is a 44 millimeter. Front is 44, rear is 40. I can't express enough how important it is to keep your bearings greased on these machines, because water is the killer on all these moving parts. So anyways, once you get that, you get your lower control arm out of the way, your front shock, the steering rack, and I just want to give a kudos to Super ATV for these awesome heim joints that I put on this. I put a Rack Boss steering rack from Super ATV, and it has been nothing but phenomenal for this machine. So just a shout out to them for making great products. I use a lot of their products on my buggy. But once you get all this up out of the way, the drive shaft will actually pull out this direction, and I had to trim a little bit of this off, which is no big deal, because once the wheel's on it, you can't see it. Some of you guys may be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that to my buggy. Well, that's probably the smallest thing that I've had to worry about cracking or something like that. It's when we rub against trees, it does far more damage than that. But anyways, once you get it back in there, I'll show you back there on the back yoke where I've put it in, and make sure you put plenty of lube on it, plenty of good waterproof grease. Before I put it together, I actually sprayed the splines that's coming out of the transmission with PB Blaster, and the biggest reason I do that is because it will repel water all the time. It's not a silicone, it's not WD-40. These things come with a Zerk fitting, and I took the Zerk fitting out. As you can see there, it was a pretty big one. And the reason I did that was when you lube this back slip joint, it only lubes about 3 splines on one side, and that's about it. So what I done, and I might be able to get this thing to turn with the front loose, maybe. But I actually drilled a hole all the way around, if I can get the camera to focus, sorry about that fellas, all the way around the yoke And the reason why I did that was that way, after I wash my buggy every time, I can actually go back in there and I can spray that down with some PB Blaster in each hole. And what that does, it just keeps it from rusting and allows that slip yoke to move back and forth as it needs to, because they're designed to move. So I just kind of wanted to show you. I do use a full synthetic waterproof marine grease. I actually grease the up in the yoke itself, and then I spray the PB Blaster on the splines when I assemble it back together before I do the front. So it's very important to keep them lubed. That's the key to longevity. And I'll show you here on the U-joint. There is the Zerk fitting for your grease gun for the splicer joint. Make sure you keep these lubed every time you ride, and lube them as soon as you come back from riding. That way you don't run into any issues with water sitting in the caps and in those roller bearings and causing a rust issue, and then you've got premature bearing life, which jacks your U-joint up. So make sure you keep that lubed up really good as well. Hey guys, make sure that you, before you slip this on the front, the yoke up onto the splines, make sure that you take some brake clean and clean these threads really good, because you need to put some Loctite, preferably blue. I don't think you want to use red because it makes it too hard to get off if you would have to take the bolts out, the set screws for anything. I don't use any lube on the front because it's locked in with the factory pin. It doesn't move. You can put a little something on the splines if you want. I don't, because I don't want it to get up in there where the Loctite is. And to me, it's more secure with making sure that the Loctite works as it's supposed to. So just take and just clean that a little bit with some brake clean, but make sure that you do it in a well ventilated area. If you're in the garage doing it, make sure that you do it with your garage door open. You don't want any issues with fumes. Make sure you do both sides. Guys, make sure you wear eye protection too, to keep that brake cleaner out of your eyes. Always wear eye protection. And then just take some compressed air and dry everything out. That way the Loctite dries good inside those threads. Guys, when you're driving that pin in, don't put anything on it. Don't put any kind of lube or anything like that on it, because it needs to be tight, and it is tight. Just use the end of your punch, stick it up on there, and drive her home. It takes several whacks to get it in there, but don't give up. It'll go. It's tight, but it's supposed to be tight. That spring pin is made that way. Drive it in till it's about that same thickness of the pin sticking out on each side. And that should take care of the pin. Now we're going to roll it and put the set screws in it. See the play I'm talking about without the screws in it? Hardly any up and down. Very little bit. But this is the biggest part, and that does cause a vibration, fellas. Not only that, but that can actually tear your U-joint up too. So you need to make sure you get that pinned properly. Guys, make sure you put plenty of Loctite on your bolt before you put it in there, and you'll be ready to go. Once you get it all your Loctite on, just start threading it in there. Might be a little snug getting it started. Trying to hold the camera to where you guys can see too at the same time. There we go. And when you tighten it down, you just want to tighten it at first until it's snug. And make sure that you're not up there on your jam nut. Make sure your jam nut can still move, because you're going to tighten that jam nut down to the bottom of the yoke there. Alright, after you get everything in there, get your top bolt tightened down. Then you want to take and just tighten your jam nut down, and that will keep it from loosening up on you as well. It's just kind of like a double protection besides the Loctite. It's a little snug. If you see here, I took and actually modified my wrench. I made it a little thinner on one side. Allows it to get in there because it's a little snug once that jam nut starts getting down on there so far. It wants to get caught on the side, but it will tighten up. Just keep working with it and it will go. In fact, this one's almost down. All right. After you get your jam nut tightened down, just go through and make sure that your pin nut is tight. Alright guys, and that about does it. You can get an idea here of what it looks like after you completely get it on there. Doesn't affect the balance of the drive shaft, the balance of the yoke. It actually had a very noticeable vibration in it before I did this, and after I did this modification, the vibration was completely gone. I don't think you'll have any issues. I'm just looking here to make sure everything is good to go. You can see there on the bottom of my steering rack where the grease has come off of my U-joints from where I lube them. I'm a firm believer in lubing the joints, fellas. Lube the joints, lube your bushings, everything on these machines. With as much water as we all run through, grease is your friend, and lots of it. So, well guys, I hope this video helps you. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. Feel free to ask. I'll get back with you as quick as I can. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back soon. Have a great night.